Hello, hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for another weekly money chat. I'm Eleanor Prisco, and I work as a money and mindset coach. And I'm so excited to share with you kind of the, lessons and experiences that I learn in my own entrepreneurial journey and my own mindset journey, along with sharing kind of like what's happening in my communities, what's happening with my clients, and sharing those experiences as well so that we can all grow, build more empowered relationships with our money, more intimate relationships with our money, so that we can achieve the financial freedom I think that we are all desiring to achieve, however that may look for each of us. So with that, I want to kick off into this week's topic, and it's about taking time off, which I think is like a really big topic. I know for myself, and it's something that I've recently experienced in the past couple of weeks. And it wasn't taking time off kind of by choice. It kind of happened and needed to happen. And I want to speak to that. And I want to speak to kind of some of the dynamics that I feel are present in the entrepreneurial world and community, and how we can shift away from some of those not extremely beneficial ways of thinking about time off, so that we can continue to develop greater financial freedom and empowerment. So here's the situation that went down, is that I had a retreat with a one-on-one client. It was fantastic. I went out and we were in like the hills of Texas, and like it was like tons of fun, absolutely gorgeous, amazing time. I got back, I started to get a cold, right? And I'm sure so many of this is happening to so many of us right now, but so I ended up getting a cold, and then I thought I was getting better, and then I got even more sick, right? And I think none of us like to admit like when we're getting sick and when we need to take time to rest. And so how does this impact then our money and business? So I want to speak to, when we start to are forced into taking time off. What ended up happening is I got to the point where I was so sick and I had completely lost my voice, and I had to take almost 2 weeks off of work. And that doesn't, I think, feel good for any of us. Like, it doesn't feel good to kind of admit that we need to rest and we need to pull back and we need to take time off, right? And this can come up in lots of different ways. It doesn't have to be like a physical illness, right? We could be mentally drained. We could be completely burnt out, right? But it's figuring out, how do we navigate burnout when we're in our business, and like, what do we need to have in place to maintain a successful business, right? So in this case, right, I experienced a physical burnout, not necessarily a burnout because of what I was maybe doing specifically, but a burnout of literally like, you're sick, you have no voice, you're out of commission. I had to, cancel lives. I had to cancel this money chat that I had. I had a public workshop that was supposed to happen that I had to cancel. I had to cancel all my calls for my private clients, all my calls for my group programs. I had to say that like I wasn't going to be showing up in communities because honestly, my like brain was just not there, and I needed to rest and like just recuperate. I had to say that I wasn't going to be available for Voxer to my private clients. It was like one thing after another, right? Of telling all of these different communities and spaces and people that I was not going to be able to attend the calls that we had already planned. That, of course, is uncomfortable, right? Like, being sick is uncomfortable, but then on top of that, needing to tell people that like you won't be able to stick to commitments that you had can feel really uncomfortable. However, right, because I have chosen to build transparent relationships in my communities with my clients, it actually didn't the result wasn't bad, right? So a lot of times if we build our business, and if we and I want to talk about the money mindset side of this in a moment, but I want to talk about business structure for a moment. If we build our business, right, with a, shiny, perfect persona, right, and we create unrealistic expectations for ourselves, for, our clients to expect of us, what can end up happening when it comes time where we maybe need to take time off, or we need to, or like we aren't able to attend a call, or something comes through late, or, whatever it is, right? When we create these, shiny, perfect things that we're supposed to be versus like, I'm a transparent individual, like I'm another human being, and we're entering into this as two human beings and understanding that life may happen, and we'll always do our best to communicate clearly with each other on both sides, right? When we don't do that in building our business, we build unsustainable businesses, right? Which can potentially lead to the classic burnout, right? Of not feeling like you have any time off, not feeling like you have any freedom, constantly feeling like you're working for everything that you possibly need to, not feeling ease and pleasure in any aspect of your business, completely feeling drained, not being motivated to show up for your clients, not being motivated to show up in your communities, not wanting to get more clients, right? And this is where the money mindset aspect comes in, right? When we have businesses that are draining to us, right? When we have jobs that are draining to us, it can become really unmotivating to show up for the money, right? And not only show up for earning the money, right? For receiving the money, but also in general for managing our money. And so another belief that can really pop up here, and I feel like is a common thread when it comes to the women in my community, is like, oh, well, if I take time off, the automatic exchange that needs to happen is I don't receive money, right? Because this isn't like a salaried job. Like I'm an entrepreneur, people are paying me for an exchange of services, and then my services are, not being rendered. So like they can stop paying me, right? However, if you build transparent businesses, if you get your money mindset on lock, if you create sustainable business practices, this does not need to happen, right? It gives you an ability to like, I took 2 weeks off, and instead of being met by angry clients, I was met by clients who completely supported me, who honored the fact that I needed to take time off, who were, happy that I was prioritizing my body, was happy to, send me lots of emails, lots of comments, like well wishes from my communities, from my clients. Every single one of them was completely understanding of the situation. And I was even saying they thanked me for displaying such transparent CEO-ship, right? On top of that, receiving beautiful care gifts from my clients, which I couldn't believe. It was such a heartwarming experience of like literally care packages being like, get well soon. Like, so just completely mind blown. Like that is not something I ever expected. And it's not something I would have ever expected if I was in a corporate job where I started of like, oh, I need to take 2 weeks out because I'm sick. Like, I don't even think like I would have been given 2 weeks, right? It's like kind of like you have a week max and like you need to come back to work. And like there is no like, oh, let's send you a care package and make sure you're doing all right. And like, how are you doing type thing, where I was then receiving this like gratitude and support from my communities, from my clients. And that was so incredible, right? So it's like, how was I able to take these 2 weeks off, be met with such gratitude from my community and my clients, and still get paid and like not have anything happen with the current contracts I have, right? So the big thing here is that the very first thing, right, is setting expectations, setting transparent expectations between you and your clients to begin with, right? Because we don't want time off to like start messing with our money. So it's like setting transparent expectations with my clients and communities of like, if anything does happen, I, of course, am going to be transparent with you. I'm going to tell you what's going on, and I expect for you to do the same. I want you to know that like, I am human. I may miss things. I may, miss a notification. If I miss it and you really want attention brought to it, just ping me again. I'm never maliciously trying to ignore your messages. If I fall sick or any kind of illness comes up, I will let you know. And it does mean that there might be some shifts to our calls, right? And that doesn't mean that the calls are forfeited, right? Like, it's not like I'm not going to render those calls. They might get moved to the end of the container. We might have like, a call that gets added in there, or like some extra time is spent on a particular call. Like, the call time, the coaching time is going to get made up, right? It's all about trusting that, like, if something does go down, you can trust yourself to make it right. Right. So that's like number one, creating transparent relationships from the jump with your clients, with your communities, and letting them know. Number two is a second level. And I think it's a second level of transparency. And the first one also could be considered a boundary, right? It's like explaining boundaries from the beginning, right? Setting your boundaries. The second one is actually just sharing transparently what's going on with my community. I didn't ghost my community. I didn't ghost my clients. I simply wrote a message of like, hey, everyone, like, it turns out my body has become completely ill. And I think none of us like to admit when we're sick, but my body has said that I absolutely need to admit it at this point, because like I have zero voice. I've been in bed the past 3 days and I'm not getting any better. So, taking the time to like actually explain what is going on and then outline like my appreciation of their understanding and patience in this situation, not necessarily going into the conversation of apologizing, right? Because apologizing for the fact that you're sick, which is so outside of your control in a way, like, it kind of doesn't make any sense, right? So instead, leaning into gratitude towards your clients and community members and group members, like of being like, thank you so much for your understanding, your patience. I appreciate that, like, you like see me as a human and understand that these things happen. And I will absolutely be making up our call time. Once I am recovered, I will let you know what that's going to look like. But for now, I'm going to rest. I'm going to recover. I'm going to take care of my body. I will post and let you guys know when I am back. So that was like number two, like just sharing transparently what's going on rather than needing to push through, right? Rather than needing to be like, oh, okay, this is just something I need to push through. I just need to try harder. I just need to, somehow navigate, or be like, oh no, I'll only take partial time off. In the sense of like, oh, well, I'll stop my group programs and I'll stop my calls with my clients, but they could still message me on Voxer and I could type replies, right? Or I'll keep the communities open, the private communities that I have, or the public communities, and I'll stay active in those. I actually said, no, I'm going to be completely off social media. I'm going to actually be like totally focusing on taking care of my body, right? So the first thing, right, to recap really quickly, is setting that boundary, right? Being really clear on, okay, like, these are the boundaries and expectations for the containers we're going into, right? Number two is having that transparency, like being willing to share transparently around what's going on, and saying and speaking to the fact that, like, you're going to make this up. Things are going to be created, like, don't worry too much. We are going to be, getting things taken care of. And like, if you're concerned about missing any of the calls, or like the calls, being missed, don't worry. We're going to make those up, right? So like speaking to the fears and concerns of your clients, even in these moments, right? Number three is I had my money mindset on lock, right? Of course, being a money mindset coach means that I am constantly talking about money. I'm constantly talking about the ability to have open communication around money, because that is a huge aspect of the feminine financial way. And so it's really important to me to, speak to the fact that, it's like constantly just going through and being willing to speak to the fact that you can get sick and you can still make money, right? You can cancel things and still make money. The payments are allowed to still come in from your clients when you take time off, right? So this is like a huge aspect of like, there's a couple different shifts I want to speak to here in the money mindset aspect, right? So number one, I want to invite you into reflecting on the question, are you thinking that you exchange, for the exchange of money, are you exchanging time? Or are you exchanging for a result, right? or a container and space of being held for the result which someone is working towards, right? My containers are not based on an hourly rate. It is not oh, you get this much time with me, which equals this dollar amount, which you're paying me per hour, right? You, of course, can break any container down that way. You can look at any program and you can look at the number of call times. You can look at, the minutes that you may spend with that person, right? And you could break it down to an hourly rate, of course. However, that's not how I build my containers and packages. And so I think that this is a really big shift in that, my clients are not paying me for my, the time. Of course, I'm getting paid for my time, but they're not paying me for an hourly rate. They are paying me for a result, for the container being held, for them to work towards a result. That is vastly different, right? And so even though I was taking 2 weeks off because I was sick, there was no conversation from any of my clients or concerns of what discount am I getting this month? Because, we're going to miss, a call or two, and, we're not going to be on Voxer support, right? Or you're not going to be present in the communities or X, Y, and Z, right? None of that was happening, right? So a huge aspect of that, right, is how is your business set up, right? How are your payments or how are your containers being set up or structured, or how do you speak about them to actually understand this is not the same, right? So that's another huge part of the money mindset. The other aspect was you get to rest and make money, right? This I think is a huge, challenging belief in the entrepreneurial world, right? Because, and it's so contradictory in my mind, because there's this thought process of oh, if you stop, if you pause, if you rest, if you take a break, it's going to directly influence your revenue or hurt or harm your revenue. However, that doesn't need to be true, right? The thing is that, and this is why I find it so contradictory, is because I feel like a majority of us got into the entrepreneurial game because we're desiring financial freedom. We're desiring, just freedom in general, time freedom, money freedom, all of these things, right? Financial freedom. And so we want this freedom, yet we find ourselves directly connecting our financial outcome to the work or time that we're putting into something. And so when it comes to taking time off or saying I'm going to take a break, I'm going to take a vacation, I'm going to take time off, or maybe I'm not going to work on even Fridays, right? However you may be scheduling yourself, we see that some beliefs can come in of oh, well then that's going to directly impact my revenue, right? That's going to directly impact the cash that comes in the door. And I am not allowed to take time off, right? Because it's so funny, because so many of us get into this entrepreneurial game to work less and make more, yet we still struggle with that belief of oh, these two are directly correlated of if I work more, I make more, right? And so in suddenly needing to take 2 weeks off and not work, right, there was this definitely I witnessed a former belief coming in and being oh, are you allowed to get paid, right? And I was able to immediately just be yeah, of course I'm going to get paid, because I'm not my containers are not based on an exchange of my time. It's based on the result that we get, what we're working towards in the container, which I hold, number one. Number two, I know for a fact, I'm not exchanging, time for money, right? I'm exchanging a result for money. And I have developed a belief that I am allowed to be in ease and make money, right? Of course, there's new levels to that, which I continue to reflect upon, I continue to expand upon, and I continue to pursue, right? Because there's just when it comes to our money mindset, what happens is there's the same belief, but we continue to confront it at new levels in our business, in our financial journey, in our money journey, right? So are you allowed to continue to grow your income and still work the same amount or even work less, right? Start working smarter and not harder. And so this is like a huge aspect that I think definitely comes up when people need to take time off, or, there's definitely a belief of like, oh, well, if I stop, then that's going to directly impact, the money that I was planning to have, right? But it doesn't have to. And so I really want to invite you into reflecting upon like, oh, like what are some of my own beliefs that I'm holding around, oh, how I choose to engage with my money, right? Or, if, or how do I like reflect upon, oh, how am I believing that what the exchange is? Like, do I have to work as hard as I believe I need to, right, to make the money that I want to, right? Do I think that there's a correlation between that exchange, right? Of course, there's a difference between like showing up and like everything, right? And of course, I had to lean into my team a bit more during this time, right? Like I was definitely being like, oh my gosh, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? And it did mean I had to lean more into my team, but it also meant that I was able to get that support, right? Because I had done the work to say that like, oh no, I'm allowed to be in ease. I'm allowed to take care of myself. I'm allowed to take care of my body. This is okay. This is safe. Like nothing is going to happen to my bottom line. And I can reach out to my team. They can keep posting for me potentially, they can communicate and schedule out these emails that I had drafted and like send this out and post them in the communities. And like, I can trust that everything will be okay. And that if there is something after I take time off and people are upset about it, I can trust myself to handle it, right? These are all mindset beliefs that I've gone through. These are all money mindset beliefs that I've gone through, right? Because it's continually relating to my income, how I relate to making and earning money, right? And so it's really, really important for us to get that on lock so that we can easily take time off in our business, right? Whether that be for someone being sick, yourself being sick, or just taking time off on vacation, right? It's like, oh, how are you able to take maternity leave in your business? How are you able to go on vacation with your family, right? Like if we're building these businesses to create greater freedom for ourselves, however that may look for us, whether that be time freedom, financial freedom, an ability to pursue like your deepest desires and dreams, the freedom to do so, right? Like it's so important for us to reflect on, oh, like how am I believing that what I need to do to make money, right? Like what are the beliefs that I hold on, like what does it say about me as a person if I choose to, make money easily, right? What does that say about me? What does it say about the person I am? Like there's all these beliefs that can come up, right, around taking time off and taking care of ourselves potentially, or even just enjoying ourselves, right? And it can be really challenging to confront those things in our own business. So I just want to encourage you all to go ahead, take a look at your business, reflect on, okay, am I building a sustainable business? Is this a sustainable model for me of income, right? Am I going to burn out? Am I able to, shift into a new way of being when it comes to my money and how I relate to earning money? Am I able to, be able to achieve the freedom I really want from the structures I have in place? Is there space for me to create greater transparency, for me to create new boundaries in my containers and with my clients so that if anything did occur, I would be set and fine? Okay. Let me know what really resonated with you from this chat. Let me know what new information you gained. Maybe I'd love to hear from you. I definitely go there and read the comments. So I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know what resonated, what really stuck out to you, what mindset question you're going to pursue yourself. And with that, I'll see you next week for our next money chat. And actually next week we have our money masterclass. So if you're interested in learning how to bring strategic actions into creating greater pleasure with your money, come join me for the Pleasure Money Masterclass next week. That will be taking the time slot of the weekly money chat. You need to sign up for that. It's going to be in a private Zoom class so that you can ask any questions. I'd love to welcome you over there. But this is going to be all about learning these strategies that I teach when it comes to the feminine financial principles, how you can incorporate that into all the different aspects of your life and money relationship. That comes to income, that comes to debt, that comes to saving, the whole enchilada. I'd love to see you. We are talking about how to fall back in love with your money, or how to fall in love with your money in the first place. I'm really excited for it. That's happening next week on the 14th. So if you want to join me, I'd love to welcome you there. And with that, I'll see you either for the class or at the next money chat. Bye.